Mad dog. We are being lied to, our freedoms are being taken forever, and I will not be muzzled like a mad dog. And I will not have my health destroyed because you idiots can't read truth. You go along with the lies that are the people who are trying to take down our freedoms and destroy our country. This is sick. You ought to be ashamed of yourself for being a part of this. And I will not be muzzled. And it's time for us to stand up for our freedoms. Because if we stand back and let these pieces of crap handle our freedoms, we will have nothing left. In fact, we'll end up being dead. Amen. We are being lied to. Our freedoms are being taken forever. And I will not be muzzled like a mad dog. And I will not have my health destroyed because you idiots can't read truth. You go along with the lies that are the people who are trying to take down our freedoms and destroy our country. This is sick. You ought to be ashamed of yourself for being a part of this. And I will not be muzzled. And it's time for us to stand up for our freedoms. Because if we stand back and let these pieces of crap handle our freedoms, we will have nothing left. In fact, we'll end up being dead. Amen.
Discussions about masks everywhere we look. And we're wondering, is the science telling us the truth? So many people asking questions. When you're wearing a mask, are you wearing it just because you have to? Do you believe in it? Is it tight enough? Does anyone appear to be wearing this thing in a way that would make any difference whatsoever? All of these are our questions. And I want to talk about, where does the truth actually lie this week? Who's lying? Who's telling the truth? Who should we trust? Can we trust anybody? Well, if you remember how the whole mask discussion started, it sounded a lot like this a couple of months ago.
Medical masks like this one cannot protect against the new coronavirus when used alone.
Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet. But it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
And a surgical mask, let's start with that one, does not protect you from the from a respiratory virus. It's got leaks all around it, and it's really designed as a barrier protection for people in the operating room. That's why they call it a surgical mask. The N95, which is the one that people are buying up, important also to understand that that N95 mask, I have to be fit tested for it. I've got to make sure I've got a tight seal to wear it as a healthcare provider. The average person out there, the average citizen, that mask is not going to protect them. And as a matter of fact, in most cases, they're actually going to increase their risk of being contaminated with a virus when they're wearing that mask improperly, because they tend to touch their face, they tend to move it around. It's very uncomfortable, it's hard to breathe in. Not only are you not preventing yourself from getting a disease, you may be increasing your chance of getting a disease by wearing that mask.
Now, I'm pretty sure those weren't computer simulations of who we believe to be the heads of our health department. It sounded like a lot of knowledge and information and science-based evidence that we were being given there. And I know some of you are probably saying, Del, you've already played that clip. Are we doing this again? Well, did you happen to see what Tony Fauci said just last week about those statements? I mean, right, we're wondering, why am I wearing masks? Why are there wars going on in grocery stores right now? And what was it? What was he saying to 60 Minutes, Tony Fauci? What does Surgeon General mean? Well, this is apparently what they meant from Tony Fauci's own mouth.
What about a month or so, or 2 or 3 ago, when people were saying, you don't really need to wear a mask. Well, the reason for that is that we were concerned, the public health community, and many people were saying this, were concerned that it was at a time when personal protective equipment, including the N95 masks and the surgical masks, were in very short supply. And we wanted to make sure that the people, namely the healthcare workers, who were brave enough to put themselves in harm's way to take care of people who were infected with the coronavirus and the danger of them getting infected, we did not want them to be without the equipment that they needed.
So we lied to you. I think is about the only way we can take what Tony Fauci just said. We were worried about the frontline workers who apparently, I guess, shop at Walmart and Costco to get their masks, because that's where we're getting our masks, right? Is that where hospitals go to get their masks? When I was at Costco, or we were there and we're thinking I should probably get a mask, did you know you were interrupting the hospital supply chain by purchasing at Target, Costco, and Home Depot, I suppose? I mean, it doesn't make any sense, and it sure sounded like what happened to all the science you were talking about? What happened to the Surgeon General? So we aren't touching our mask and moving it around, and that is not a problem, and the gaps in air and unfitted masks really were not a problem, that we were just making that up. We were just telling a little bit of a fib, I suppose. And now really try to wrap your head around the fact, I mean, this is what I do, right? I try to imagine what's really happening behind the scenes, right? Just put yourself in Tony Fauci's shoes. Remember, he is probably sitting with at least 20 people in a boardroom somewhere talking about the dangers of, what's going on and how we're going to get people to mask and social distance for whatever God knows reason we are going through this. They all sat around and said, we have a slight problem here. Houston, Tony, I don't want to be difficult here, but you did say on 60 Minutes people didn't need to wear masks. And by the way, don't be giggling over there, Surgeon General. You too said it too. In fact, we all said it somewhere on a camera. So now, how are we going to get people to believe in masks when we said that they weren't necessary just a couple of months ago? And whatever that conversation was, and whatever the reasoning that they actually have to batten us down and have us wearing masks now, their best option, their absolute best option they could think of was to send out the head of our coronavirus task force to tell all of us, we lied to you. Tony, we've been through it. We've been through this. We've got our whiteboards. We've been to chalkboards. We've covered all of it. And I think it seems plain and clear now, you have to go out and tell the world that America's health department lies to its people. All right, got it. All right, I'm on it. I mean, Tony, you got to hand it to the guy. It's probably why he's been there for, half a century or more in that same position, because who else would do it? Most people would say, I would be going, are you kidding me? I'm not taking the fall on that, especially when the science sucks as bad as it does around this entire thing. But no, Tony Fauci stood up and took it. All right, well, good for you, Tony. I guess that's your job. But what are the rest of us supposed to do? What do we think now that the young, or the boy that cried wolf has made this statement? Well, now the headline about us is this: Fauci blames anti-science bias for people not following COVID-19 rules. No, it's not anti-science bias. It's a lack in confidence in scientific truths. If you keep telling us lie upon lie upon lie, and then you don't even do what a bad parent does, just never tell your kid you lied to them, right? No, you actually come out and say, no, we lied to you. No, that's how we did it. That was our opinion. Anthony Fauci lied about masks. Now he complains that people distrust authority. Great headline. Exactly my point right there. Of course we don't trust authority. You're telling us you will say whatever you have to fulfill whatever agenda it is you have.
I know you're feeling dizzy and lethargic, Mama, but you gotta keep on wearing your mask. It's an instrument of freedom, Mama.
This face covering actually is an instrument of freedom for Americans if we all use it.
You want to be free, don't you? I know, Mama, but mainstream media and government tells us we gotta wear our masks.
It is critical, Mama, that we all take the personal responsibility to slow the spread of COVID-19.
It is critical that we all take the personal responsibility to slow the transmission of COVID-19 and embrace the universal use of face coverings.
There's no doubt that wearing masks protects you and gets you to be protected.
We need to support mask wearing. When I'm not in uniform, I wear them. They're white. They work very effective, and I think they're a great investment for the American people.
It is not an inconvenience. It is not a suppression of your freedom.
When you're outside and not have the capability of maintaining distance, you should wear a mask at all times.
At all times.
It's to keep us safe and to keep everybody around us safe. And Mama, when has mainstream media and government ever steered us wrong?
As for the masks, well, I've been saying this forever. Personally, I was at the epicenter of all of this from the very beginning. I don't have a problem wearing masks.
I don't have a problem wearing masks.
You know why? Because I love grandmas and grandpas and moms and dads, and they're the most vulnerable, and I wouldn't want to live with myself if I happened to get it and passed it on to people that may potentially die from this.
You don't want to jeopardize the health and very life of others, do you? I mean, you do love people, don't you?
And also, I'm going to be very selfish about it. If I have to wear a mask to go to a baseball game or an outdoor concert or a football game in the NFL or college, and that's the only way I can get to see the game, it would work.
You want to be able to attend those important sporting events and outdoor activities, don't you? Well, then wear your mask.
And by the way, I know, at least on one little measure that we have anecdotally, I've said it so many times on the show, once, twice a week, I went to my local grocery store. I saw the same people. I even put one of the guys stocking the shelves that I saw every week. I put them on my radio show. The same cashiers. I actually like the fast checkout myself, but I saw the same people. And thank God I would ask every week. Nobody contracted COVID because they all wore masks. So for me, anecdotally, it works.
See? Masks work because Sean Hannity and all of mainstream media say they do.
The other thing is, we got to remember, this is only temporary. Our scientists are going to get us through all of this and probably sooner rather than later.
This is only temporary. You can trust the scientists. There's something we need to understand about psychological operations. They're non-stop. They're 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The social engineers of our day are working overtime to mold and shape the minds of each individual within society, whether we perceive it or not. In 1929, Edward Bernays sought to end the stigma around women smoking in public by creating the Torches of Freedom propaganda campaign. Torches of Freedom, kind of like an instrument of freedom.
This face covering actually is an instrument of freedom.
Cigarettes are torches of freedom.
An instrument of freedom.
Torches of freedom.
George Hill, president of the American Tobacco Company, called Bernays, expressing a concern that they were losing half of their market share because there was a generally understood taboo by men that didn't permit women to smoke in public or in private. Bernays then paid $125 to get the opinion of a psychoanalyst named Dr. Brill on the question of what cigarettes meant to women. Brill's response was that cigarettes are torches of freedom for women. He said they want to smoke to dramatize men's taboo against women because men do not permit them to smoke. Women had the desire to be free to do whatever they wanted, and the social engineers were working to exploit that desire for their own benefit. With that $125 worth of knowledge, Bernays decided to utilize the upcoming Easter parade in 1929 by contacting a debutante friend of his and having her and her friends contact the Associated Press and other news outlets to inform them that they would be lighting torches of freedom to protest man's inhumanity against women by their ongoing taboo against women smoking in public and in private. This bit of propaganda worked its magic on the psychology of women and caused cigarette sales to skyrocket as smoking for women grew to be widely accepted in just 6 weeks' time. That same method of propaganda is still going on today to sell us everything from hate to racial division to cheap sex, war, and even medical advice, including the current medical advice given out by mainstream media and government sources.
So where is the President of the United States, and why isn't he leading the way on mask wearing? You can see all the officials you want pleading with people to wear a mask. The President of the United States is the most powerful person in the world. He led the way on reopening, but he's been subverting the idea of wearing masks from the moment he announced it.
This face covering actually is an instrument of freedom for Americans if we all use it.
Well, for my home state, I do believe in wearing masks. I do not want to shut the economy back down.
Wear facial coverings where social distancing is not possible.
Please, 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 wear a face covering when you go out in public.
So wearing a mask, social distancing, not touching your face and washing your hands is a way that we can continue the economy opening up.
Hey, you really want to be free? Do you really want to open up? Well, then you better daggum wear your mask, boy.
You've said that everybody should wear a mask. What about the president? His federal government says everybody should wear a mask.
Everybody should wear a mask.
Don't you think it would be a powerful symbol if the president of the United States would put on a mask and understand what so many people around the country are doing to try to slow down the spread of this thing?
With the more information we have knowledge today, wearing the mask is the best opportunity for us to keep this economy open, keep us working, keep us safe, and help us as we build towards that vaccine.
Help us as we build towards that vaccine.
They have to get the shot. The vaccinations are so important. This is really going around now. They have to get their shot.
Help us as we build towards that vaccine.
Where we're in a much stronger position than any other country before.
We actually all have to wear a mask to get into this building. When we go into the green room, we have to as well. So we take it off when we're on TV, just as you do when you speak as well. I just don't see any downside in the president being seen more often wearing it. It's symbolic. Obviously, it's patriotic because you're not only protecting yourself, you're protecting other people.
It would. I mean, for the 4th of July, we could all show our patriotism with a red, white, and blue mask going out there.
Great idea.
We could all show our patriotism with a red, white, and blue mask going out there.
Show patriotism by wearing a red, white, and blue mask. Oh, kind of like this right here? Wait a second. What does this shirt say? I can't breathe. Well, that makes sense.
This face covering actually is an instrument of freedom for Americans if we all use it.
Cigarettes are torches of freedom to women. They want to smoke to dramatize man's taboo against women by not permitting them to smoke.
Bobby, pass me one of them torches of freedom, will you?
This face covering actually is an instrument of freedom.
Cigarettes are torches of freedom.
An instrument of freedom.
Torches of freedom.
So the message is clear, guys. If you care about humanity, if you have any compassion and love in your heart, you'll do exactly as you're told. Wear your mask and don't question authority.
The interesting thing to me was that within 3 days, the newspapers, without any intercession on my part, published accounts that women were smoking in Union Square in San Francisco, in Union Square in Denver, and on the Boston Commons. And to my surprise, within 6 weeks, on their own, without any intercession on my part, the League of Theaters, which had a ban on women smoking in the smoking rooms under the orchestras of every good theater in New York, lifted the ban and women were allowed to smoke. That obviously set a trend, and the Surgeon General's statement that cigarettes were dangerous to your health did not come out until about 30 years later.
It is not an inconvenience. It is not a suppression of your freedoms. This face covering actually is an instrument of freedom for Americans if we all use it. Please, 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 wear a face covering when you go out in public.
Mad dog.
I'm going to do a little test here today. A lot of people are saying they're getting headaches and stuff from wearing a mask that they're requiring us to wear pretty much everywhere we go. And I'm going to test oxygen level under a mask using an OSHA-approved air quality monitor that tests for oxygen levels, hazardous gas levels, LEL, CO, NH3, H2S, stuff like that. This monitor is bump tested every day. It's calibrated every 30 days. OSHA requires 19.5% oxygen to work in a space. Look it up. Normal oxygen levels is anywhere from 20 to 21, right in that area. So I'm gonna do a little test here. I'm gonna put the sampling tube at the corner of my mouth, and I'm not exerted, I'm just standing here. So we're gonna put it right here. That's going straight to the air quality monitor. And we'll see what the oxygen level is. So I've got 20.5, okay, 20.6. That is the oxygen level without the mask. Now I'm going to set the camera down, put a mask on. Okay. Do the same test, hose in the same spot. You can hear the alarm going off. That means that there is a hazardous atmosphere. And we'll see what the levels are. 17.4. 17.5, it's starting to go back up. Okay. It's going to clear at 19.5. And that's what is required to work in a space. So if you're wondering about headaches and stuff like that, there's why. Because you're not getting enough oxygen. If you're exerted, working, running, whatever the case may be, it's only going to get worse from there. So, you know, it is what it is. You're not going to see this on the news because they don't want you to know this on the news. So take it for what it's worth.
Mad dog.